guys, welcome back to Female Founder World. It is your host, Jasmine, here, and we've had a little bit of a break. It's been the Christmas holidays for me. I've taken a little bit of time off from daily podcast publishing, but we're going to be back with our regular daily drops on the 7th of January. So tune back in for regular programming of regular interviews. And today's conversation is a really special one. I wanted to get it up during the break because I've been seeing her name everywhere at the moment, and I wanted to kind of have a conversation and learn more about what Kat Norton, the founder of Miss Excel, is up to. She is basically I guess she's an influencer. She started out creating Excel how-to videos on TikTok. She now has more than 700,000 followers on TikTok and 500,000 on Instagram, actually more than that on Instagram, I think. And she creates courses teaching people how to use Excel. So she's a little bit different compared to the usual folks that I interview on the show in that she doesn't necessarily have a physical product. She hasn't created like a big tech brand, but she has built an amazing business. All right, let's get into the show. Kat, thanks so much for joining me on this show. It's great to have you, and I'm so excited to dig into everything that you're creating with Miss Excel.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I want to start right at the beginning. I think, from the intro, people have a bit of an idea about what you're doing, but I want to understand what you were doing before Miss Excel and kind of what your path to this new career looked like.
Absolutely. So before this, I worked for 4.5 years at a consulting firm where I was doing securitization reviews for banks. But on the side, I had built out this Excel training program internally for the company just because it was something I'd always loved to do. And then, so on the side, I was going around the US hosting these Excel trainings as kind of like a passion project. And then with the start of the pandemic is when I really started, sitting down with myself. I found myself in my parents' house. I was back there in my childhood bedroom, like, what am I doing with my life? What lights me up? And really honing in on my purpose. And that's when I came up with Miss Excel.
What were kind of the first things you did to get started? Were you literally like, okay, I'm just going to turn what I'm doing in my courses into TikTok videos? Did you create a content calendar? Like, how did you get started?
Yeah. So, I mean, taking you way back here, the first thing I really did was a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
inner work to get myself to a place where I was okay with posting myself dancing on the internet because not a lot of people just wake up
Yes,
like
let's
that.
talk about that.
Yeah. So, I went down a spiritual rabbit hole going through a lot of inner child work, shadow work, meditation for about 2.5 months straight, right when the pandemic started in New York. So, around March. And I remember it was by like end of April, I turned to my mother and was like, Mom, I'm going to be rich and famous soon. So I need you to prepare your nervous system for that. And we were both dying
Ooh.
laughing, but like everything in me knew that I was going to create something really big, but I had no idea what it was. I didn't create Miss Excel for months after that. So it was really just getting myself to a place energetically where I was an entrepreneur, where I did create impact. And then everything kind of lined up by the time I put myself out there. So then it was June 7th, I put out my first TikTok, and then it all kind of spiraled from there. But I didn't have any content calendars, any plans. It was more of an intuitive hit that I followed.
Okay, you're definitely speaking my language with the energy work there and the shadow work that you're talking about. So I want to get into the specifics around TikTok and your content, which is awesome. But before we do that, for people who aren't in that space, they're not when you talk about inner child work and healing work, that is like a foreign language to them. What does that actually look like? Are you working with somebody who is kind of a spiritual healer or a guide of some sort? Are you meditating? Like, what practically does that look like if people want to kind of follow your path?
Absolutely. So I used Lacey Phillips' program called To Be Magnetic. And it was
Mm.
essentially like 20-minute guided meditations. You pop in the headphones, but they use binaural noises to bring you almost into a hypnotic state where your subconscious mind comes forward. And then when your subconscious mind is forward, you're able to go in and essentially reprogram any memories that were once triggering for you. because from age 0 to 7, we don't have critical thinking skills yet. So everything just seems more dramatic. So, maybe your mom spilled your coffee in the morning and she snapped at you that day, but you might internalize that as, oh, this is bad, this is wrong, and so on. So I went into those memories that were holding me back in life and keeping me small, which most of those came up during the meditations. I hadn't thought of these things in like 20 years. So it wasn't, like your
Mm.
top of mind memories. There are these random memories that will come to you from childhood. And then you're able to go in there and essentially reprogram them, AKA show your subconscious there could have been another way, which essentially neutralizes the electromagnetic charge of the memory. So it's no longer triggering and manifesting into your current reality.
Oh, powerful. And what do you think changed within you during that process? Like when I'm talking to you now, you have like a really bright, vibrant, open kind of energy. Is that who you are? And is that who you've always been? Or is that something that's kind of, through this work, you're able to kind of channel that vibe and that energy more easily?
Yeah, it's definitely a result of the inner work. I think authentically I was like this, like when I was very young,
Mm.
but then I had a lot of conditioning societally over that that kept me very shy. I grew up with an anxiety disorder. I just hated any attention on me. This is a funny story, actually. I wrote in my kindergarten yearbook that I wanted to be a rock star. And I think it wasn't as much about the singing, but it was more so about like being the center of attention and like being on the stage and having that impact. And in first grade, I sang with a toy microphone in front of my parents. I think it was my mom, bless her heart, because she was absolutely correct. But she was like, Kathleen, you're great at a lot of things, but you can't sing. And little me took that as, oh, you don't deserve to be the one on the stage, right? So then come through to middle school, everything is a mirror. So essentially, your mind is going to create a reality for you where it will just keep reaffirming those beliefs you already had. So, what group of friends do I call in? The drama cadets, further reaffirming that they are on the stage and I was always in the audience. Then, as I get older, it develops into a public speaking disorder. I hate having any attention on me. I stop having birthday parties, and it kind of just starts spiraling into this low
Mm.
self worth situation. So then, when I went in with all this inner work, I stripped those away and got myself back to that authentic place, which I then went and built myself a stage on TikTok, Instagram, etc., to be able to showcase my talents.
Amazing. That's some powerful self awareness there. I want to also, just double click on this ability to show up on TikTok in a way that some people, they're watching and they're like, I couldn't do that. Like, I wouldn't be confident enough. I would be worried about family and friends judging me. What do you say to people who look at what you're doing, have an idea for what their niche is, but just kind of can't get over that last hurdle of actually putting the content up and putting it out there?
Amazing question. So, a couple different things there. One piece of advice that really, really helped me is don't take advice from people you wouldn't trade places with in that area. So if you're sitting there and you're scared
Yeah.
of the
Boom.
opinions of all these people who are too chicken to do it themselves, you're going to remain in your place if you take their advice and you're going to remain where they are. However, if you look and have expanders, if you have role models that are where you want to be and you follow their advice, it's easier to push yourself out there. And then also, it ties back into the inner work too, because there's zero shot I would have posted myself dancing on TikTok to a left function if I didn't do some inner work first. So I always do recommend doing it, whatever resonates with you. I do a lot of Kundalini yoga, I meditate, I was doing Lacey Phillips program, just all different modalities to really like get in there and get myself to a place where negativity just doesn't stick. It just rolls off because the internet can be a dark place out there sometimes. So we need our nervous systems
Mm.
prepared for that. So it's not going to stick with you and create more trauma within you. We need it to repel back and be almost a mirror for the person who is trying to trigger you.
A friend of mine has kind of a way of looking at how you show up on social media as you're embodying different archetypes. And she's like, there are all different versions of yourself, and you're picking one that you're showing up as. And it's like, this is a character, this is part of you, and that's what you're putting out there. And I really loved that idea of like just picking your archetype about who you're showing up on this platform and what would they do. I think that's like a really powerful way of looking at it as well.
I love that. I love that so much. Because, yeah, someone told me that recently too. It's kind of like an avatar. And when you have an avatar, it kind of helps you
Mm-hmm.
disconnect, because it's like, okay, if someone, insults you, they're insulting the avatar, not you personally. Like they may be
Mm-hmm.
triggered that you're dancing to an Excel function, but that means nothing about your character. And being able to kind of like create that distance.
Yeah, absolutely. I read somewhere, I heard on a podcast while I was doing some research for this conversation that you don't spend so much time necessarily planning the content that you're creating, but you spend more time like getting in the zone before you create content or being energetically prepared and in alignment. What are you doing in both of those kind of categories? What are you doing before you pick up your phone and film something to prepare to create a video?
Absolutely. So, usually what I do is I have creative energy days. So, I'll block off an entire day and I will get myself into a creative flow state and really tap into the feminine energy. So, it's kind of a energy hack that I do. There's masculine energy days and feminine energy days, which it's not necessarily like male female. Masculine energy days are more of like the to-do list, the iced coffee, you're cranking through all these things, and the feminine energy is the receiving energy. And that those are the days I
Mm.
end up making the most money because what I do is passive income. So it's really like leaving that space for it to come through as well has been incredibly beneficial for my business. But I like to separate an entire day for the creative, and I will get myself into a flow state. I'll meditate, I'll do some yoga, I'll get out in nature. And then it usually takes me about an hour once I start brainstorming to get into that flow state. And then I'll make a list of like all the different ideas that I have for content. And then on another day, I'll like, do the hair, the makeup, all the things, and actually batch film a bunch of the different content. And then I'll like edit
Mhm.
them throughout the week.
When we're, talking about the early days when you started posting videos for the first time and you were kind of just getting into this, what kind of traction were you getting and how long did it kind of take for you to see people respond to your content? And how has that kind of evolved and changed to where you are today? Because you've been doing this for well over a year now, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. It started June of 2020. So it happened pretty quickly. I think I was very energetically aligned with what I was creating and where I was going with it. So I posted my first video, I
Mm-hmm.
think it was like June 7th on TikTok, and I was doing one a day. And by the fourth video, it reached 100,000 views. And I was like, oh my gosh, it started getting pushed to all these people I knew. And then by the sixth video, the CEO of an IT company had reached out to me like, hey, I love your teaching style. I'm looking to create videos in G Suite products for students, parents, and teachers because this is when all the schools were going digital in the US. And so I formed an LLC, got a green screen, a ring light, and started creating these videos after work and selling them back to this guy. So within a week, I was like making money. I started putting out more Miss Excel content. So I'm like, it's helping people, it's an opportunity magnet. And
Mm-hmm.
then in a couple weeks, I had my first video, quote unquote, go viral. I think it hit like 3.6 million views in a day or two. And next thing you know, I had 100,000 followers on TikTok. So it all happened kind of within a few weeks. And then everything started, really catapulting from there. I added in the Instagram account and then went viral on Instagram and kind of like ping ponged back and forth to grow the following. But I think a big part of why it happened so quickly was the energetic alignment because I had no mental barriers before going into it. I didn't go into it with any scarcity. I didn't go into it like, I need this to work to quit my job. I went into this to have some fun. I was
Mm.
like, I got a skill set.
Yeah,
This is a creative outlet for me. This seems like a good time. And I started just posting the videos with
totally.
no expectations. I was like, this just seems like a cool thing. I wonder what would happen. There's not much on TikTok and Excel. When I first started, there really wasn't any. And I was like, ooh, this could be cool. And I think it was that mentality going into it that energetically allowed it to open up and just kind of like hit so quickly.
This is something that I hear from quite a few people, not just in kind of the digital content and social media world, but kind of in entrepreneurship more generally. The folks who come into it with a sense of joy and this is going to be fun and that real kind of openness tend to be the people that do really well. I just think whether it's customers on the other side of your business or whether it's people watching your videos, like they do pick up on that energy. And I think that what you're saying, some people are going to feel like it's too woo woo for them, but I just, want everyone to kind of give that a shot and try doing some of that work because I think it does make a huge difference.
Absolutely does. Honestly, that's kind of been my real like hidden secret to all of this. That's not so hidden because I just tell everyone because I
Mm.
really, it's all just energetic alignment. Like if you're in your purpose and you're doing things you love and you're doing things that light you up, that energy is going to radiate through the phone to the other person. No one wants to watch your videos if you look like you're not
Yeah,
having a good time, you know? So I just bring
totally.
that level of
Totally.
energy and happiness and infuse it into the content so people also are getting a smile on their face while they're learning. That's my real goal
Yeah.
is to
Yeah.
really light up as many people as I can through this content and have people not only feeling more empowered and confident at work through the Excel, but really to get inspired to do what lights them up and just kind of radiate the
Hmm.
happiness around the globe. That's the real goal.
I love that. I love that. Let's kind of switch gears a little bit and focus on monetizing audiences. So, you had some success. You went viral pretty quickly and built your following on TikTok, then built your following on Instagram. What are the different ways that you're monetizing that audience now and that you've turned this into a business?
Yeah. So I'd say like the majority of what I do is course sales. So I build out different
Hmm.
courses. I use Thinkific. It's a really awesome platform. And I host webinars generally are my big like sales days. So I'll like host a power packed Excel lesson. And then at the end of that, if people want to continue learning with me, I give them, a cool course offer there. I've done a couple of like partnerships and things. That's like a very, very small piece of what I do. I also do corporate trainings. So companies will hire me to come in and do an hour-long Excel training. And then I do bulk sales to companies as well.
So let's talk about that a little bit more. You're saying that you have the workshops, and I'm guessing that's kind of where people come in. They learn a little bit more about you. Are you hosting all of those workshops live? Do you have kind of uh, on-demand content? Like, how are you doing that?
Yeah, so those I do live. So I host, it's kind of like an Excel party, and I get the energy up really
Oh
high
yeah,
around
fun.
it. I make it like a fun event. I have a great time
Hmm.
on the events. I'm at least having a good time. No, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of energy. It's like always thousands of people. And we just have a good time.
Hmm.
We learn a ton of Excel. And then at the end there, they're like, whoa. Usually people are like, whoa, there's a lot of things I didn't realize Excel can do. And that's where they're really interested in
Mm.
learning more. And then they're like, oh, her teaching style, I love that. It's a lot of fun. So it's kind of like merging those two together that converts into sales. I also do have an ad company that I'm working with right now who's looking to do more of like some of the evergreen webinars as well, but we haven't really ramped that up yet.
Cool. And then also on the kind of, on a similar kind of note, I'm really interested in how you plan out the course kind of curriculum and how you figure out what's going in each course and what that looks like. I think so many people are doing these kind of online course businesses now, and I'm just really curious about what makes yours really special.
Absolutely. So, first, I go through the actual program and I take an inventory of all the different tools. And then I sit with it and do like a mental inventory of different ways to apply them. Because I think that's another really big part of these Microsoft products, especially is people don't know when to use them. And I have that through like prior consulting experience. Like every week, I was at a different client looking at different data for 4.5 years. I've seen a lot of different databases, a lot of different systems. And I'll go in there and get like the technical pieces down. And then I take a day and get into a really creative flow state and I sit with that outline and I infuse it with as much creativity and fun as possible. I will make sure there is something cool
Hmm.
going down in every lesson because a big part of what I do is Jim Quick's learning method, which is information plus emotion equals memory. And a lot of courses miss out on that emotion piece. And sparking that emotion
Mm.
is what allows you to more easily recall the information. So I will make you laugh. I'll have cool things popping out. I video edit every single video in my course. So I shoot them all. I edit everyone because I kind of have like the teacher's eye with it. And I'll know, like, okay, we need a hamburger to pop up for 3 seconds for this analogy to make sense and things like that. So it's really a creative art piece for me. It's not as much a course, like it is a course, it's a learning mechanism, but it's also my form of art. And I just take so much pride in it and building
Mm.
it, creating it. And I'm a part of every piece of the process to deliver this value.
Oh, that's amazing. That's such a great way of looking at it. That it's not just, you're not just creating a course, that this is your creative project and your artwork. I love that. Okay, awesome. You've talked about editing your videos and doing so much of this yourself. Do you have anyone behind the scenes who's helping? Do you have a video editing team? Do you have a VA? Is it just you?
So I do have a virtual assistant that does like 10 hours a week for me. And I have her work on
Hmm.
some different, like sometimes the Instagram posts, like if I do like a static post or if I'm running like an ad, she'll do a little bit of like the design work. But all of the reels, the video
Yep.
content, the TikToks, the courses, all that kind of stuff is all me.
Awesome. And can you recommend any kind of editing tools, or are you doing them all within the apps? What would you recommend for folks who kind of want to create this kind of content too?
So I use We Video. It's WE Video. And that I found when I was Googling, right when I was in my corporate job, like easiest video editing software. Because I knew I got like a vision to put an Excel screen above my head in a TikTok. And I'm like, how the heck would I pull that off? I had no idea how to video edit. And I had this like
Yeah.
vision of it though. So I'm like, I got to figure out a way to make this come to life. And so I watched a YouTube video to learn how to use WeVideo. I learned it in like 40 minutes and I've used that since for my courses, for my videos. It's super user friendly and I edit everything off the actual apps so that way you can have more of an omnipresence approach and cross promote things on multiple platforms without having watermarks.
Yep, smart. And then, Kat, the last thing that I ask everyone who comes on the show is for a recommendation. And just given us a great one there, but I'd love to know if there are any other resources, whether that is maybe a community you're part of, someone else that you follow, a course that you've taken, a book that you've read that's kind of really helped you along to build Miss Excel.
Absolutely. I'd say the first thing that's coming to mind for me right now is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. It's an incredible book. And that book is what really changed my life and got me into this place where my conscious mind could understand what is energetically going on behind the scenes. Because I viewed a lot of this
Mm.
stuff originally as more woo woo, like meditating. I'm going to sit there and say Om with my eyes closed and see what happens. And it is so much more than that. And that book is what got my conscious mind on board with the law of attraction and manifesting and how all this stuff actually works from a scientific perspective. He essentially demystifies the mystical, Dr. Joe Dispenza. So for me, that was when my brain first went like, whoa, you actually create your reality. And then after that, I like dove more into the quote unquote woo woo mechanisms and things of that nature. But really, that book, especially if you're kind of like teetering on, okay, I feel like there's something more out there, but I don't really know. I don't get this stuff. That book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza, is incredible.
Awesome. Okay. It's like the gateway drug to mysticism and woo woo. I love
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Everyone buy it.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Kat, thank you so much for your time. It was awesome getting to know you and your business, and congratulations on all the success with Miss Excel. I can't wait to see what you create next.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.